No.
Morning, everybody. I'd like to call our meeting to order, the Cumberland County Planning Commission, March 19, 2026, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions or modifications to our agenda?
No additions or modifications?
No last minute ones, right?
No. Sorry.
Are there any comments from the public? I don't see any public here. Did we have any written comments?
Yeah, I forwarded to the board yesterday, written comments from Lori Fenn, who was raising some concerns on data centers.
Yes.
So I indicated to Ms. Fenn that I was sending that on to the board.
Thank you. Any online comments at this time? Hearing none, we will move on to our action items. First item there is approval of the minutes for our previous meeting on February the 19th.
We accept the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then moving on to Nate.
Okay. So this ASA is for a property in Monroe Township. Staff saw no major concerns with this one. The biggest thing with this one is that during our review process, we discovered that this property is included in the conservation area on our future land use map. If you're unaware, our conservation areas are for protected natural lands, open space, and easements. This farm is not preserved through our program or any other program, so we are suggesting that we change it back to rural to be consistent with the surrounding land use and our county guidelines. So that's really the only thing with this ASA, and I don't believe that requires board action. That's just something that we'll handle internally with GIS. But I wanted to make you all aware of that.
Can I ask on that, what is the zone? Is it agriculturally zoned? Or what?
Yes, yeah, the zoning is agricultural. It's just there was a hiccup with our future land use map.
I
For
see.
some reason, it was included in the conservation parcels when it should be rural. So we thought this was a good opportunity to get that changed over to the way it should be. Are there any questions on the ASA review itself?
Great property.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to information items.
We'll need to take action on that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. As discussed, care to make a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the ASA application for the Monroe Township Ag Security Area, the Lerman property.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Any questions or comments?
How many acres total?
I believe this one was over 30.
Was it 38?
30.7.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right, informational items. I'll take the liberty and shift these around a little bit. Just two quick announcements. The first one, our Planning Commission University. That's set for March 25th at 6 p.m. here. So if you're not familiar with what Planning Commission University is, it's a training course that the planning department staff put on for citizen planners. So it really focuses on what are the roles and responsibilities of planning commission members. We cover a little background on what a planning commission is, and then we get into the three primary functions of a planning commission: comprehensive plan development, zoning ordinance development, and amendment review, and subdivision land development plan. So we have that training session set up. Steve, Elizabeth, and I will be instructing that. I believe we're at 31 registrants right now, so we have a healthy class size for that. I think Ed and Nita and anybody else? Kelly? Okay, you have Brandon. Yes, we have plenty of planning commission representation. If anyone else wants to attend, let us know. But
Do you have a max on that?
I think the safety fire thing is like 50
yeah,
for the room.
it'll be in here. So
The reason I ask, I'm going to the Middlesex Township Planning Commission on Monday night, and if you want more people, I think there will be a lot of concerned citizens there who could use that kind of education if you want.
yeah, I mean,
to get out a
feel free
flyer
to mention it.
or
We have a priority of. I guess it's a good point, Ed. Like if we get overwhelmed, we have to make some decisions of priorities. And the priorities would be existing municipal planning commission members, then backfill with residents.
Okay, I won't. No,
Feel free to mention it. I know Middlesex Township is aware of it. They're aware of it, so they may mention it.
Kirk, would that be appropriate if we have like a new engineer that's getting into doing plans just to kind of learn more about how like the planning commission work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kirk, this is Brad Mitchell. I'll also try to attend that. You said that was the 25th?
Yep, 25th at 6 p.m., Brad.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, there is a registration for that on the handout. Elizabeth sent
Okay.
the-
I'll find it, Steve. Thank you.
If you need it, just reach out. We can get it to you.
All right.
So that was announcement number one. Announcement number two, our data center forum scheduled for April 29th from 6 to 8:30. It's going to be an online event. I forget if Elizabeth mentioned that last month. She really headed that up for us. So did a great job getting that rescheduled. Thanks to Ed. He's a big help in getting everything together with that as well. So we'll be online. I know there was a lot of discussion and interest from the public of wanting to have a public comment period. We believe that this format is really intended to be educational, and that it's not intended to be a back and forth on data center issues. We believe a lot of that back and forth is best occurs at the local level, where there's an active plan or an amendment at a municipal level, where that back and forth can occur, so that we don't have folks coming in making general public comment and there's not someone there to receive it that can actually do something with it. I think from our standpoint, we've learned a lot through this process, both pros and cons on the industry. I think we've tried to integrate that into the guidance we have with our model ordinances as we work with municipalities. So our impact on this is really on that planning side. And we're seeing execution of that with ordinance amendments and plans at the local level. That's the appropriate place for a lot of public input. So as we get into that online forum, that's little about a month away, a little over a month away. We will have some upfront stuff instructing residents on the opportunities to get engaged at the local level. Have a little bit of that up front as part of the presentation.
Can I make one comment, Kirk? I was disappointed that we couldn't do it in person because I thought the interchange potentially would be very productive. But I think one of the, as your phrase, George, making lemonade out of lemons, which I love, by recording it and having it all virtual, I think Elizabeth and I and you have talked about packaging it a bit so that it's really like an online course that townships could then take and do the listening sessions, which you talked about, Kelly, at the local level with materials and maybe even some of the questions. So I think if we can package it that way, I see it as really having a very, very positive impact for townships being comfortable, perhaps, holding those kind of sessions.
So we will record it and then we'll put it out on our YouTube channel. I'm sure all of you have seen it. There's a new video up that Elizabeth did yesterday on Meet as Data Center Developer, which is a really good piece. So that's up. I looked this morning, it already has 50 views in 8 hours. So again, we're looking at these things as we see them and post them up. That interview Elizabeth did yesterday took about 45 minutes. Post it up, it's done. But we're putting that information out there and making sure it's available for our residents. The forum, likewise, that we've done it once and done in person, it goes away. As we record it and put it back out, our residents have access to that over a longer period of time, and our municipality. So I think that that format, moving into that, trying to be a little more active with social media and digital media is really going to be effective for us with public outreach. Okay, any questions on those two? Okay, if not, we'll go into this headline exercise. So I sent that out to everyone. Talked to George and Kelly a little bit about this of, do we want to do a retreat this year? We're kind of going to take a step back this year, not do a formal retreat, and maybe do a few of these small visioning type things as part of our normal agendas, just to stimulate some discussion and talk about what's important as we see new initiatives, new ideas come up of how we can program them then with the staff work plan. So really, I don't want anybody to take this too seriously. It's more of a lighthearted kind of look at where we're at and what we're doing with the Planning Commission. I was doing some research online. I saw this headline thing. Thought it was interesting that it might be a good way to get some discussion and also not be too time intensive for our members. So what I had provided everyone was a summary of the responses we received from the Planning Commission. And then I also included, the staff did the same exercise. So we had, as part of one of our staff meetings, we went over the same exercise. So you have all of that. I'm trying to find, where are we at here?
For our guests,
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here.
I have a copy, but I only have one copy. So, I can get my computer up.
I had way too many windows.
I think I have it on my computer. Just to be clear, these are aspirational, not real headlines here.
Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, so what we wanted to do today then was just we have a description of all the headlines and the descriptions. So just open discussion for the group then. What are the common themes and topics that you see emerging from the exercise? Was there anything that was missed? So we realized we're kind of ask everyone up to 3 headlines that you put in there. So maybe there are a few things that were missed, or as you've thought about it since then, anything that's come up. And then final piece, just as a group discussing it, are there, let's say, a top 3 of themes or topics we should identify as priorities for us? As maybe some of those we're already doing, maybe there's some that aren't that we should start thinking about. So with that, I'll open it up to the group then of thoughts on the exercise, and then start talking about common themes and topics that emerged.
I thought it was a very fun exercise. It's very difficult when you have so many thoughts and you're doing so many things, it was very difficult for me to kind of put it into a few words and make it brief and concise. So I struggled with that. I don't know how you do that in the media. It's very difficult. It sounds like it's a skill. But I thought it was really fun, and to try to make it concise I found that's more difficult than I thought. Obviously, like the data centers were a theme throughout these. I think that we've done a good job in providing resources and trying to be like that source of truth and information and providing guides. But I noticed that was a theme. And then just speaking for myself, 2 of the headlines I wrote, it's important to me that there's community participation and that the community is informed when they're participating as well. So I focused mine more on like how we can engage the community and have participation in our meetings.
Kelly, I thought that was a theme as well, because a lot of the results were centered around engaging people in order to get those results. So.
There seemed to be a theme too about municipal support and providing tools and things that, information to help municipalities grow effectively and efficiently.
Right.
As well.
Yeah, I think we've talked about some of our retreats and everything. That always comes up. That municipal technical assistance, at least that's really important for what we do. So you combine the public and the municipal technical assistance. I think they're our primary audience of practically everything that we do.
Yeah, I would echo what everybody said, certainly. I think one of the things, in my understanding of why we're doing this partly is to look ahead, which is great, and purposeful. So I think we want to be careful not to just toot our own horn versus identify issues that are perhaps a little harder hitting. And the biggest one, I think, is really that we as a county are facing the reality that with this type of industrial development that's happening around us, the townships are absolutely not prepared for it. And what is the right role, and should a different approach be considered to planning at the county level? Other counties have county-wide zoning. Where we went to Loudoun County and Prince William County, they have county-wide zoning. They have county-wide planning. We're a little bit dinosaurish here, especially to the western part of the county, in terms of local control. And I think you all, as a staff and the county, we appreciate the county support, do a great deal to support the townships. But I don't think it's frankly ever going to be enough. It's through education to really help them prepare for the future. And you as planners know this more than I do. These issues are regional. They are not township based. And there's really very little to truly plan at a regional level in terms of our current system. So I think the system doesn't work. And are we courageous enough to actually say that? Which is not a criticism in any way of what we're doing now. I think you as a staff and the county are doing more than you have to, say, in terms of your legal responsibility. But if I look out 5 or 10 years to having just been down in Loudoun County, it's not a Middlesex issue. It's not a North Middleton issue. It's not a West Pennsboro issue. It's a much more regional approach. And I think there could be some benefits and some positive outcomes. Some of us who were down there were just brainstorming. And you take Middlesex, could the investment be made to do the 81 Turnpike connector? Could the investment be made to redevelop the Miracle Mile? So you keep gas stations on each end at the exits of the Turnpike and 81. And the Miracle Mile is now developed into a multi-use commercial industrial center that's now the information superhighway intersection that the developers are saying it is. And why would we not then ask the developers to invest? What we saw down there was there's a willingness to take existing industrial areas and flatten them because there's so much. So in my, expressed, but that in my view is if we're really looking at 5 years, is there a different model we should be using rather than expecting West Pennsboro, North Middleton, Camden, Middlesex to be addressing these regional issues? I just don't see it ever working very well, frankly.
And it's interesting, I don't know if anyone has been following Senator Rothman's proposal for the state to basically take over where data centers would go. I'm simplifying it. But I think the state is also looking at that and saying, what's our role in making sure that this power and this use is done appropriately across the state? And I'm not sure where, I don't know that that's getting traction. I have no idea what the discussion is on that.
Some of it's connected to the grid.
Right.
Pierre has changed his perspective a bit and talk more about that state level, and that's an obvious point. But
Have you heard much more about that state involvement in, the permitting of, I would say, data?
Other than the existing legislation.
Okay.
I had a state planning board meeting this week, and we had a presentation on Governor Shapiro's housing plan. And it was interesting too. So one of the staff members from the governor's administration had presented it, and they started to talk about a lot of local issues. And, well, we need to look at local permitting. We need to look at all, and it sounded real similar to a lot of the data center stuff. And I had asked the staff members, so could you give us more specifics on what this actually means? He said, well, we're still working that out. We'll be going back. I said, well, as I listen to what you're saying, a lot of the issues, especially when it comes to affordable housing on appropriate densities and allowing all types of residential use in residential districts, sounds a lot like preemption. And I said, I know I've heard that on the data center side. So it seems like a little bit of a common theme coming from the state on some of these bigger issues that I agree. When we're looking at trying to do at the local level, it's very difficult to do regional planning at a single municipality level. And maybe there is a different model.
I think it was going down to Loudon last week and having the opportunity to four of us in the car and having discussions. Like Ed was indicating, a 5-year thing doesn't cut it because we're dealing with technology that is evolving at a pace that is really hard to comprehend. And a couple of comments that were made, and I know my numbers are going to not be precise, but I found it interesting that obviously in Loudon, that particular area, that is the intersection of where all of the data, all of the internet activity takes place in the United States or North America. We're talking about, I believe they said 70% of internet traffic goes through Loudon. 40% of the world's internet traffic goes through Loudon. So just hold on to that for a minute. And then you start talking to the developers about the environmental impact of water, the different types of cooling that they have. When they design, what are the criteria that they use to design? So they design them based on worst case scenario being a few months out of the year over the summer when the heat is, I'm going to say, in the 80s and above. That's when they really see the impact on the type of cooling that is used. So in my mind, I'm thinking as we're driving down, if this would have been 25 years ago and I saw the utility work going in, I'd have thought they were gas lines or water lines. And I'm thinking, well, I've never seen gas lines where there were like 10 to 20 bundles of something flopped in the ground. Those are fiber optics. So I asked the question, we were down there, is any of that moving north? And the answer was yes, but they meant north in close proximity to Loudon, where they're going to be developing, obviously going to be have more connectivity in that more rural area as you're going down, like the Leesburg and north of Leesburg, et cetera. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, obviously they want to be there from a performance aspect and standpoint of, having their data being able to be transmitted and accessible at the fastest rates. So if you combine that with the cooling, how does the environmental impact change if you move up through the country another few hours, and how does that impact of the temperature and over the months? Does it lower that requirement to a certain extent that it justifies and makes it available for them to move north? So I think that's something that Pennsylvania and obviously some of the other neighboring states north, need to realize that if they can get the fiber connectivity and directly connected, how's that going to impact? And then obviously, part of the concern with any of this is the housing. So, existing communities as well as communities that are coming forward, all of these things are going to impact each other. And those are the type of things that, like Ed is saying, it's tough for some of the communities to, if not all of them, to address that on a comprehensive scale. It's a challenge at a much larger scale, let alone a municipality with a few thousand residents. So those are some of the challenges that we have, and I know the Cumberland principles that we have, and, you know, we're looking at, you know, the density that's down there in the Loudon area, using the resources and utilities that are currently in place rather than extending them out. So many pieces at play here. And then when you, you know, from the housing standpoint, I know when I talk to realtors, I'm just amazed that, you know, how high on the scale that the housing market is in this part of the country. It's very high. So the demand for housing is high. So there's a lot of dynamics that are happening here at the same time.
If it's any consolation, I just was at CCAP earlier this month, which is the County Commissioners across Pennsylvania Association, and every county is talking about data centers. It is not just, you know, Cumberland. It was all across the state and struggling to figure out, you know, if there's a role to be played.
Any other reactions to headlines that we have there?
Yeah, Kirk, this is Brad again. You know, supporting what Ed had said about the differences across the county, east to west, and, you know, we, North Middleton, we sit right in the middle. So, you know, that kind of, I appreciate very much that regional approach in terms of, you know, comprehensive land use, things like that across the county. How are we going to adopt that? A question was also raised a little bit ago about Senator Rothman's proposal to, you know, just moratorium for 3 years. Let's really figure out what we're doing and go from there. And the question was posed, is that getting any traction? And not that I have seen, in that the technology is in fact moving so quickly that 3 years, as we just kind of noted, you know, is a lifetime in terms of the evolution of things. And of course, the developers don't want to wait that long to start reaping their rewards that they're going to pass on then. So yeah, this, to say that this is a difficult issue and we're looking for additional guidance in whatever way we can get it is, I think, an understatement. What I see listening to this conversation is that some degree of control at the county level would certainly be beneficial, and marching it on up to, you know, true state level seems to be a bit, you know, a bit of too much of a reversal. So that's a tough one to play out, but I appreciate this conversation is going on. Thank you.
Kirk, I guess the one thing that I would say, some of the thoughts around public engagement, and I know, you know, you as the director of planning are doing that with your YouTube channel. I think that that's forward thinking about how we can make sure people know. But I will say, I don't know if some of the municipalities need assistance in that same thing, because they're really not equipped to be handling some of the engagement. And they're, you know, so I don't know. It's hard for us to tell the story of Middlesex. It's their story to tell. But if you don't attend the meetings, you don't know what that story is. So that gap of, you know, letting people know what's happening around the county, and I think people are more and more interested in government and what's happening. So I'm questioning, like, how do we assist with that effort for the municipalities?
Yes, that's good. I think that's a good point too. Like, traditionally, our technical assistance has been focused on, you know, nuts and bolts zoning and planning. It could expand to some of these other issues of how do you communicate with your residents. Even our last Cumberland Plans grant that we did for South Newton Township, that was for E-Code 360. But if you look at it, like, well, they're going to, you know, codify the ordinance and put them in E-Code 360. How's that improvement? Well, for us, you know, one of our principles is engage to improve. So if they're going to do that and they're going to put it online and people have more access to their ordinances, it achieves that goal, Kelly, of getting out to the residents. I think that's something for us to think about. If we're leading the way on some of these things, how can we share our example and experience with municipalities so they can follow likewise?
And I know you're trying to get back to this agenda, but just to go further with that just a little bit, and I don't think there's any easy answer, but would the Regional Council of Governments and combined zoning be something to float again? You know, we got close with doing that, what, 30 years ago maybe, and people backed away from it because they couldn't give up the local control. I think there's enough of a headache for the townships right now that they might welcome it, frankly.
And I'll just say, and I have limited experience in this, but what I see about the I don't know, the personalities of different townships, I do not see certain, unless they're leading the way, that they're going to cooperate with anyone else. I mean, that's just my perspective, particularly more on the eastern side of the county.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And they all have different resources as well.
Yes. Some have planning departments, but.
Kirk, if I can weigh in on that issue for a moment,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Okay. You know, the MPC does provide for multi-municipal planning. And, you know, there have been some limited successes of that around the state, but it takes, and I think Ed and Kelly both have hit on this, you know, it takes leadership at the local level to really recognize that a regional approach is better than that isolated silo type of an approach to planning issues. And if you don't have that necessary leadership at the local level, it's not going to happen. It's, you know, I fought that battle for many, many years when I was with the department, and it really comes down to municipal leadership and the willingness to look at the broader issue and to give up some degree of control that you have at the municipal level for the greater good. And that's, you know, my take on the issue. It's a tough one. And to the degree that, you know, we as a planning commission and you as staff can work to try to promote that, you know, I think that's in everyone's best interest. But again, if you don't have that leadership at the local level, it's really not going to happen.
Gina.
I think Bishop, did you want to comment on this topic?
No,
or do you have
no,
another?
on something else.
Okay, so fine. So then I'll go. Yeah, if you don't mind. You know, when I read this, I thought, wow, we're putting a lot of energy into the data centers, rightfully so, right? Like that's a hot topic, but we can't forget, and I saw some housing and farmland, and we can't forget those efforts are just as important. And I think that if we continue to focus on that and push out that information about how we are working on farmland preservation and how housing is a priority, that might help with the alerts of the data center. Like they're not taking over the world, right? Like, so, but I just would hate to take our eyes off of two other really good priorities that we need to focus on. So
Yeah, that's Gina, that's good. I was going to try, you were reading my mind. I was going to try and round the discussion back. Let's get off data centers a little bit and look at some other stuff. So yeah, I think housing was in there, farmland preservation was in there. So I agree. There's some other topics. We want to make sure we're putting some energy into data centers, that's not the only thing that we're doing.
Yeah, I was along the line that she was in. How I thought there were several comments on protecting the best, just not farmland, but just water, the whole 9 yards. I thought that was evident. And just on a personal note, I'm the guy that did the FPR. The reason I did that, the day I got the email, they were spreading it right across my pasture and it irritated me, so. But I am sincere about that, that whole issue. It affects a lot of people. And me living next to it, it's pretty much year round. The thing that my concern on that issue is there's only a few enterprises that are making money on it. And it's affecting a lot of people. And that's more of a personal concern. But it's not like everybody's doing it. It's basically 3 entities. So, but that's why I got put on there. They were spreading it and it irritated me.
It is. It's a quality of life issue.
It is.
I live
It
about
is.
a mile from a farmer that actually injects it into the ground.
Yeah.
And you even inject it into the ground a mile away, I can still
Yeah.
still affects us.
Well, I
When-
mean, we address like noise and all of that, but that is absolutely a quality of life issue.
When you live an approximate, I would say probably 3 or 4 miles of where they bring it in, you can, I mean, if you know where I'm at, but you can go from Kurzville Road to the top of Cemetery Hill. And it's there. I make the comment, there's trucks come in every day. And I make the comment, when the pit burps, we get the whiff of it.
Yeah.
And when you're putting stuff in every day, and I don't see that getting any better. I think that we're talking about timeframes here from when that first started coming in to now, comparison of the volume, it's not comparable. And it is an issue for people that live within a few miles of it, just not where I'm at, but then there's another area over along 174. That gets pretty, even that gets into Carlisle sometimes, because they're not very, I mean, where they're at into Carlisle's probably only, here again, it's probably only 5 miles. So.
And Brandon, to your point, when I first joined the staff in 2024, that was the hot topic issue that was going around, especially with our ag board. And, over time, that's kind of taken a backseat to everything else, the FPR issue. I'm not even sure where the legislation is at in the House. I know it's, at one point, there was 2 bills that were in the House. But yeah, I think that's something that we should keep in the focus a little bit more. Also, remember me whenever I'm out doing farmland preservation inspections next month and I have to walk up to those pits and FPR.
And I don't know if I've said it here, but the FPR is a problem for our emergency responders. They spill and we don't know what it is. And we have to send people out to maybe a hazmat team, depending on where it is and what it is. So it hits on other levels as well as it relates to our response. But what I'm hearing too, and one thing that I would ask of this group, and Nate, you're right, we have lost sight of that a bit. But if there's things that as commissioners, we can lobby on behalf of these issues, please give us clear marching orders, because we do get to spend time with the people that are making these decisions. So, and we can forcibly get to spend time with them if there's an issue that you want us to elevate.
I get thoughts on 2 points that came up in the staff list in there. So one is a historic resource inventory. So I'm not sure if Elizabeth reported on that in some meetings, but I'm not sure if the board was familiar with that. But she has been leading an effort looking at some grant opportunities to update our historic resource inventory in the county, get that up to, I think the last time we did that was 2015.
Honestly, I might have before I was here.
Yeah, it was probably Jeff Kelly era. So yeah, it's been a while since we've done that. So working with municipalities to figure out, what's on the resource, what's truly historic versus just what's kind of old that isn't a priority for the community. So that's one. And the other one that I know Elizabeth has reported on as well is our Clean Water Cumberland initiative, looking at clean water. She had a meeting in here yesterday, I think it was.
It was Tuesday.
Tuesday. Rapid delisting is a rapid delisting strategy. So if you look at our impaired streams in the county, undertaking some of the grants we get from DEP to focus on streams that are impaired, and what can we do around those immediate areas to have the biggest impact on water quality in those streams, with the hopes of getting them delisted from an impaired stream standpoint. So there are another kind of maybe 2 other don't forget us type initiatives that are going on that I think are really important. But I wanted to throw them out there if anybody had any comments, questions about any of those.
Kirk, when you're talking about historic assets, are you following a certain parameter from the Pennsylvania Museum Historic Commission, or?
Yeah, they have a list. So PHMC has kind of a list of their historic resources they have at the statewide level at their inventory. We use that, and then work through some of their parameters and to go back with municipalities to ask them if they have additional resources that are on that list. Typically, most of the resources are on PHMC's list.
Okay.
But
There's also a pretty active county list that the Cumberland County Historical Society does that crosswalks with the state list, but it also takes in others. Now, I don't know exactly what the criteria is, but it's focused on at-risk historic properties. In other words, ones that would be in the face of development, et cetera. And they've used that as a way to try to get onto the state list as well.
Yeah, could I add just a little, sorry. I'm sorry, my camera is not working.
I just didn't know about criteria, like if there was a defined set of criteria, because something's old doesn't mean it's historic, but.
Elizabeth is here. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yes, so I was just going to say one of the purposes of working on this project is to provide mapping that's available, that's going to be free and available to the public. And County GIS is assisting us with this project as well. So I think we are going to be very integrated with the PA Share mapping data. We're going to provide updated information about the resources to PA Share. So we'll be updating the state's resource as well.
Just make another comment about that. One of the 20 applicants that we had for the position that we were very pleased to give you was a historian, and in the interview she said specifically that she thought that there was an absence or a kind of a vacuum on this commission in terms of folks with a historic perspective. So I think that's something that could be considered. Not that it's the only criteria, but somebody with that kind of background coming onto the board, I think could be timely.
Reactions to one other thing we had in the staff one. So the headline was County initiates first ever energy plan. What do we think about that?
Wasn't sure what it meant. Was it back to the solar array farm that we were going to generate our own? Or
oh no, yeah, yeah, sore spot, but
very.
So the energy plan would be I think it would be kind of dual purpose. It'd be an educational document. So we're talking about educating our residents about energy, you know, not to pick the data center scab again, but going back to that, like, if we have an energy plan, we're talking about where energy comes from. So a plan that clearly looks at the link of generation to transmission to distribution, who's in charge, roles and responsibilities, to demystify that for our residents. And then are there practical things that we can do as a county or municipality of how we can plug into that process? So it may not be like the traditional comprehensive plan where it's, you know, goals, objectives, and strategy, and we're measuring it. It might be more educational at the start. But I know I did a session at the Planning Association conference in October, working with Kelly on one coming up at the PSATS conference in April, where it's really introducing the energy community to the municipal community. And it's been enlightening when you do this, how many questions come out about it. It really is demystifying it. I'm thinking from our side, we could call it a plan, and we have a base that we did back in 2012. There was a federal program that required us to have a plan that took a look at just, you know, how our energy is generated, how do we use it. It was real basic. But we might be able to build on that a little bit, have something simple and concise that explains to our residents, this is how energy works. This is your role in the process.
Would it contain information enough to even act as an economic development tool?
Well, that's a good point, because then we could, you know, potentially bring in KDIC to look at if we're looking in our area, what are some of our constraints with energy capacity? And then from an economic development perspective, do they have priorities for that? That'd be a good linkage.
Yeah. Kirk, in that same vein, I mean, you're hearing a lot about nuclear, on-site nuclear generation and small nuclear facilities. And I mean, I know very little about energy generation in and of itself under traditional methods, but this whole potential of nuclear small reactors on a farm in, you know, Southampton Township or something like that. Are you seeing a lot of information on that, or is that's the NRC, not the PUC?
So we're starting to. I mean, that bring your own generation concept for especially, you know, data centers is starting to gain a lot of traction. That's why I know Steve and I have talked about this week. when you start to involve the nuclear side, a whole new regulatory environment. There are a lot of our municipalities saying, hey, we want to be ready for this. And it's great that they're proactive. That one, I think, is going to carry a preemption at some level to really look at. Because when you start to get into that realm, it's a whole different animal.
If you're addressing energy, it's going to be a component.
I think if we did this plan, we're even in-house. I just wanted to gauge the reaction of the board. It would be an in-house effort. We may get a consultant on it. We have some Cumberland plans that the board would want to recommend to the commissioners to bring someone to help with, but be focused so that we're not trying to have a $100,000 plan here or anything like that, but something that would answer a lot of these basic questions that we may have or the board may have.
I guess what I'm thinking now, and not that we're going to read you the comprehensive, stuff, but those chapters could really be almost energy, water. You have natural resources in the comp plan, but it's kind of general, right? By necessity, because you're trying to keep it really small. But could it be kind of combined? So it's the energy policy is part of the comp plan that everybody could point to, and the same with water using the SRBC resources, et cetera, that there's a little deeper dive in the comp plan rather than a standalone.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think where we stand now might be similar to what we have with like the land partnership.
Yeah,
where it's kind of a one-off, but it's referenced in the comprehensive plan. We want alignment under that comprehensive plan.
Because that's really our rationale for doing it.
Mhm.
And it's also demonstrating regional planning. I don't want to go back to the data centers, but more the issue of how we help municipalities in this political question of what would it take for municipalities to decide to come together and delegate their planning to a regional authority with professional staff. You guys are out there all the time in municipalities. I guess what I'm almost seeing municipalities crying, uncle, this is too much, it's too complex, it's too conflictual, we need help. And they're all asking for your help, but they're asking for your help in their ordinance, right? In any way, can you conceptualize this as being a tipping point for townships to say, actually, it could be a good thing where we would get professional staff to come together as a collaborative? Do you think?
Yes, so far, no. I think one of our core values as a planning commission too is to respect local autonomy. So I think there are opportunities for regional planning. When we're out there as staff, we're respecting that local autonomy and not trying to push another model that they may not be open to. And I think with the relationships we developed and working with those communities, we really get a good indication of how open they may be to working with their neighbors. So at this point, I don't see it. And I think that the data center issue in certain communities, it's a big issue. In others, it's, hey, we just want to be ready for this and we're going to zone it appropriately. So it's not a big issue for them. So it may not be that issue that's a tipping point to force them into regional planning. I've heard discussions. I mean, I was even in a meeting this week where the issue came up, like, hey, maybe these communities should work together. When we hear that, we always say, hey, if you want to look into that in more detail, let us know. We'd be glad to work with you to talk about what it takes. If you're going to do regional zoning, then you need regional planning. So regional comprehensive plan, regional zoning, and then you start talking about uses that go where. You start talking about splitting tax revenue. That's where it gets difficult. And I think a lot of times that's where some of this stuff breaks down.
Where it broke apart.
That's all from staff side. Good discussion. We had a light agenda this month. We wanted to throw this out here to stimulate some discussion. Take this back, look at some of these, maybe bring some of these things back to you on a regular basis. Show where we're at. We'll keep it in our dashboard so you can see these. But we'll probably see we have later agendas. We want to put some of this stuff in here so you give you the opportunity to discuss some of the bigger issues and also give us guidance on some of the things you're seeing.
To go along with this public outreach, is there a chance to do the annual report in this kind of context? That it's a series of headlines and articles that get distributed to the news outlets as the end of the year thing rather than
It could. So this year, actually, as you were reading my mind here, where's the, we haven't, I'm not sure that's good, but so our annual report, so we have a draft of that now. So kudos to our very own Jessica Kohick, put this together. It looks great. She did a great job with this. I mean, you know, when you look at covers that look this good, you're thinking, well, who'd you pay to do that? Well, we paid Jessica Kohick. Good job, Jess. She did a great job on this. So the way that we formatted this year's annual report is real similar to last year. We based it on our dashboard of really just listing the major accomplishments we have. So this year we haven't done anything like that of headlines. It's a creative option, Ed, for us to consider for next year's report for sure. So I was going to show this actually, so I had it up. So I'll show this to the board next month. It'll be up for your review and approval. It's just about done. But in the past, we've struggled a little bit with the annual report because it just seemed like it was a rehash of a lot of the things that were in our growth trends that we show every month. We have a monthly dashboard that we've been putting out there. So if folks want to know what the Planning Commission is doing, they can see that on a regular basis. And then we've been just consolidating, using the kind of year-end dashboard to put it in here. So if somebody wants to see what we're doing, they'll find it. And they'll see it on a month-to-month basis. So we don't have to have the year-end celebration for that. But I like that of a creative way to do this a little different, because we're trying to, when we do these things, be streamlined, and something like that could help us streamline a little bit more.
Can we move back around to something?
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't think anyone would be surprised to see that I put the housing comment and headline on there. And Kurt, I was happy to hear that there was some discussion about Josh Shapiro's, Governor Shapiro's. I read that report. And what I picked out of that was a very clear plan on where the housing is needed. And so I would encourage, if we could, have future conversations about that and
It might be a good update to see if we get somebody from his office, the governor's office, to come in and present to us. Because they had the needs. There were needs based upon region. The Southeast region, looking at how many housing units we needed. I think it was 2050-ish.
The number, but I know there was a number.
Southeast,
I have it. I saved the report.
Southeast was big. The South Central, where we were at, I think we need like 32,000 housing units by 2050. So they were showing that. But they went back to the fact of, how's the local permitting process adding costs to housing and slowing the delivery of units. That was an interesting conversation. That it's kind of ironic to me that the state planning board, we had already developed a report on that specific issue. And now we had another statewide report saying, hey, we need to look at this. Well, we already did. So, see what some of the recommendations were in that initial report. Maybe there's some things you could implement from there.
What about the woman? So Ed, Gina, and I were at the Safe Harbor dinner a couple weeks ago. The woman that came in there, she might be a good starting point.
That's true.
Yeah.
To talk about the work with housing.
Yeah.
I think
Contact. Yeah.
we have a statewide housing plan. So Jeannie, like housing that you issue first, we have a statewide housing plan. So what's next then? Like, who takes that plan and makes it happen? And I think this is another issue similar to data centers, where there's this, call it the information chasm in the middle of state to municipal. There's a huge gap. So who's filling that and making sure that plan's getting adopted?
That's where my head went. I was like, well, now we have this nice plan, but who's like looking to see that it's actually gonna happen and tracking? Like, what are the metrics? Like, how do, like, as a county, we know what he said we should be building, but who's, Michaela, the housing authority, Michaela, they're putting on a couple different conferences about, and they've had different discussions about, maybe she would be a person to talk to about bringing builders together and, those conversations that they're having to encourage affordable housing, not just housing, affordable housing.
Well, and kind of on that, we've actually already used that to successfully get DEP to approve a stream crossing as justification, because DEP was really pushing us back on a stream crossing that would have added, I think, about 25 units to a project, which is about a third of the overall size of the project. And we basically pointed back to a bunch of information from that Governor Shapiro's plan to basically justify putting in that stream crossing to have more units on the project. Because we weren't changing anything with the zoning. It was all meeting the zoning per the township. They just didn't like us putting the stream crossing in. So we were actually already successful use in doing that to get that through DEP.
I just wanted to bring it.
No, thank you.
Kirk, is it almost safe to say that the only way to do affordable housing is with some sort of either tax-free financing mechanism, or it's just too costly to develop without there being a component of a project that is funded via grant or tax-free financing.
Subsidies, in my opinion.
Yeah, some sort of
subsidization has to happen.
subsidy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just,
You look at the land, especially in Cumberland County, our land costs, your land and material costs are really driving a lot. So land costs are very high here. Material costs are very high. So I think subsidization has to happen and density has to happen too. So you take land costs, material costs, and if you spread it over more dwelling units, and then I think you start bringing it down, but tough not to crack.
And that's another impact the data centers are going to have too, because farmers are going to have this massive number the data centers are paying in their head, whereas a private developer or builder is not going to pay that. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect there as far as what they're willing to sell the farms for too.
Can we, I come back, when we visited the data center and I had overheard I didn't overhear it as part of a conversation where someone who was an advocate for it, one of the data center people, she was saying, and I don't know if I need to find out more information, or maybe you can speak to it right now. What is the environmental impact of more people versus the data center? So she was almost saying like, well, we're all thinking about what the data center is going to do for, the environment, but you build housing there, dense housing, it's all these people, they're using water, they're using electric. I'm sure there's an equivalent there but what is that difference? What's the?
in just for example, in Middlesex, just because I eat, sleep and drink this now, the Grange development is slated to use like 350,000 or 300, it was 300 plus gallons of water per day. And the data center was allotted 400,000.
Okay.
So that's
So less.
Yeah. So it's less, but it's very intense. And that, I would say they're doing laundry year round, not just in June through August. And so like the actual daily usage may be higher. I guess it all remains to be seen, but so that people are looking at that and particularly as they're allocating water and what remains for other dense development in Middlesex.
Do you happen to know the comparable acreage between the two?
I do not.
It's like a per
I know
acre.
the Grange acreage, but it's like 100 or is it?
I can get it. We have the preliminary plan for Grange.
Yeah.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
I'd be curious because those numbers are fairly comparable. So like the acreage the data center is taking up versus the acreage the Grange is taking up.
No, I don't.
Data center acreage is much more. I think that's over 700 acres.
700, and I think
So then on a per acre basis, they're probably actually using a lot less
they may be.
than the.
That's
Grange
only
development.
worst case scenario. That's
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're 900 homes. I think
1,300.
I think it's
13, I think it's.
Now, I will say if that was the planning module approval for Grange at 350 gallons per day, that's based on average.
Right.
So a typical peaking factor would be like 3 to 4 times that.
And I mean, it's over 300. I just don't know exactly where that
Okay.
mark was. But, and so they were looking at that as a comparable because the site that the data center is going on was approved for, was it 1,400 Pantera, or was it 1,400 Pantera development
Okay.
was to be there in the McNaughton development.
Yeah.
So they were trying to equate what the real
Mhm.
differential is. So.
Related to the housing question, again, you guys are out in the townships. Is there a lot of concern about supplemental housing, as what is it called, additional dwelling units, whatever, on a single property, or moving away from single-family homes? Are the townships open to that, or is that an educational need to bring in the townships and talk about creative ways to do that without destroying the character of the.
I can tell you from the eastern part and specifically East Pennsboro, there is significant pushback on housing that is not single family. And some of what there's an educational component that is oftentimes we're going to make a decision based on what we feel as opposed to what the facts are. And when you look at the cost of housing, the cost of, just getting in there and explaining that. It's often not received well because there's too many numbers on the wrong side of the decimal point. And it's a very, very, very challenging, just from a standpoint of, I don't like that because that's not what I'm used to. And then the other component of that is the impact on the schools. And then you also look at the impact on the other resources and services within the community, police resources, fire and ambulance resources. So there's so many of those facts. And I like what you brought up, Gina, about the comparison between water usage and this type of use versus this type of use. I believe those are the type of things that if we can come up with scenarios that paint a picture that everybody can understand, then it's has, I think, significantly more impact that people can relate to. So back to your question, there's significant pushback, but then, there's most communities are very proud of what they have, what they've developed. If an older community, they like the historic, aspects of it. And at the same time, then it's like, okay, we've developed this environment that is very comforting, it's very inviting, but then we don't expect that others are going to want to be able to participate in that type of a community. So it's a big challenge. And that's the one thing that looking at that some of the demographics in Loudoun, the age demographic in Loudoun was like 38.7 years. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to believe that many of that, a large percentage of that, they weren't there 20 years ago. So as opposed to a demographic that's older and they've been in that community for some time. So it's a significant challenge when you bring up any type of a higher density. And then there's also a component to the higher density that many don't grasp, and that is it going to be an owner-occupied condominium as opposed to an apartment? And that comes down to okay, how committed am I to the community if I'm a renter as opposed to somebody that's an owner that's living there and is making an investment in the community. So there's many, many obstacles.
Well, in my experience, the issue of density has been an issue forever across every municipality I've ever worked with. So it's not a new argument.
Nope.
The school, the transit, all of that. When you look at some apartment rates, though, they're often higher than they are for a single family home. My daughter's 28. I doubt she'll be able to afford a single family home until she's in her mid 30s. So the demographic in Loudoun makes a lot of sense to me. Mm-hmm. They can't afford a home.
Correct. Correct.
Especially in that market.
I feel like we've gotten used to bigger is better, more is better. And eventually it's just going to shift because it has to, right? They're not going to be able to afford a house. You've got to learn to live less. We want to be cognizant of the impact on our land and save it and all the other uses. Like, that's just the way, eventually, I'm hopeful the pendulum will shift. Forever optimistic. I don't know. We do.
Well, there's definitely been shifts in Minneapolis and Memphis that have really started to embrace increased densities and kind of almost get rid of those things. And we're a long way from that here, but everyone does and can shift, in my opinion.
That's a good perspective, Anita, because when you look at some other areas, they are a lot more progressive on the housing front, especially eliminating single-use districts like single-family only. That's a big step, but it has huge impacts too. If you eliminate, hey, you have to allow for all types of housing units in your residential districts. It's a big step forward.
And the one concern that I hear a lot, if you're talking about ancillary dwellings or is the Airbnb component of problems that I think municipalities are just not really interested in.
Yeah. No, that's legitimate.
And Gina, to your point about housing size, I just did a quick search, housing size in Europe is roughly half what it is in the US. The average house in the US is around 2,200 square feet. It's about half that in Europe. So like we've just gotten used to bigger and better
Yeah.
with everything.
Like our car sizes.
That too. Yeah.
I mean,
Americans like to have more stuff too,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what a house is, a place for our stuff.
yeah. We have
Yeah.
storage units and, yeah.
That was George Carlin.
You'd think we're all Texans the way we're talking.
That's all we have to say about that. Consistency letters, you can see the letters that were there, picking up a little bit. We have some congressionally directed spending apps coming in, multimodal funds. So you can see some more of those. Some of those are coming to us, others are coming to the Board of Commissioners.
Moving on to Mr. Hoffman.
Well, my PDF went blank on the second page, so I'm gonna have to wing it. I think we had 8 plans in, oh, thank you, Kurt.
I'll see you.
8, oh, I was right. We had 8 plans in February. Remember, this is last month. I list 3 of the significant ones there. There is a typo. I apologize. In Monroe Township, the Meadows of
That's pretty
Ashcombe,
big.
98 units, not 998. The guy who put this together, I gotta talk to him.
1,000 units, 100 acres. That's what we're looking for, right? More density.
Yeah, I'll talk to the guy who typed that up. Make sure I come down on him pretty hard. The dashboard is available, as always, to see any plans that we reviewed, and our comments, when they're made, are also posted on that growth dashboard. We only saw one MPC. It was a text amendment in Dickinson Township for wood fire boilers. Pretty small change. When we did not receive any MPC adoptions, they usually come in waves when I reach out to everybody and request adoptions.
Commissioners liaison.
Oh, well, boy, we've just talked about so much today. I'll just recap. We did hold the special election and it was very successful. It was a small training exercise for the May primary. We are watching the SAVE Act closely because that would have some ramifications, certainly, and particularly if the deadlines that they're saying it has to happen in 30 days. I don't know where we will stand with that. The P25 project, again, I had updated, it launched, it continues to do very well. And while I've been teasing the staff that now they have all kinds of time on their hands, they actually do not. They are now decommissioning a lot of the old towers that they're no longer using and having to do a lot of work with that. So they still keep very busy, but everything is going well. It was just an interesting, I did the 10 CCAP. Data centers were a huge issue. Additionally, I know Ed and I attended the Russell Redding speaking about ag and ag preservation and just the challenges. And he is such a great spokesperson for the Commonwealth and really has all of the issues, I think, well in hand. So it's great. I think he probably is leading some great voice in the rooms at the state when they're talking about land use issues and obviously the advocate for farmland and farmers in general. The congressionally directed spending letters, Kirk, we may want to just be careful because we too are applying for $900,000 of congressionally directed spending for backup generators for our 911 center. So we'll cross our fingers. And we were just awarded, we received notice yesterday that we were awarded $107,000 in an LSA grant. That makes the 3rd grant through the LSA process that we've received. So prior to that, so we are probably now at about $1.8 million that we have received since I joined the board, and we hired Katie Zimmerman and our grant writing success. And that is only on grants that the boards of commissioners have played an active role in that were, as again, I say, like the DA's office and their lab, they continue to apply for grants. So it's only a subset of all of the grant money that is coming into Cumberland County. I think the only other question I had to this group, and it was interesting, the discussion on regional planning, but we are holding our the commissioners meeting with the municipalities. I don't know if I feel up to floating the balloon to them about regional planning, but if there is any message you would like me to carry to them from this board, please let me know. That is in April. And I think that's it for my update, unless anyone has any questions of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt.
You have the dashboard. You can see all the activities there. Just one other announcement is that the Planning Commission, Planning Department were nominated by CADIC for their annual Impact Award. So that'll be March 27th. There's actually next Friday, there's an event at the Radisson. We've been invited to go to that. So I talked to Chairman Tyson. He's out of town. He can't come.
Sorry.
So, Vice Chairwoman Kelly Palmer is going to accompany me to go to the event, and we'll see if we win. So we'll see. I had, just thinking ahead, I had facilities make a little trophy case. If we don't win it, we'll have to look for other awards, and fill it with that, or I'll bring in some of my golf trophies or put some of your heads and stuff in there. So we'll fill it up one way or the other, okay?
Well, Kirk, it's a sold out event.
Oh, it is?
So,
Okay.
yeah, so people will be anxious to know.
But, CADIC's one of our partners. We work pretty closely with them, and I think it's an honor to be nominated. So we'll see where it goes, where the chips may fall. It's fine. We don't need awards for the work that we're doing. I think the awards that we get for the work is to see the actual change in our municipality. So I think that's where I speaking for the staff, I think that's where we get our awards, the best awards from municipalities.
Coordinating agency. We have Janet online.
Good morning, everyone. Kirk, thanks for stealing my thunder. I wanted to announce. Hey, let me just say one thing. CADIC staff does not nominate for those awards. That was an outside individual, and we had a selection committee made up of our board that will select or has already selected the winners. So I know who the winners are, and could be bribed if you want to do that. But it is, as Kelly mentioned, it is a sold out event. We will have 136 in the room. And if you decided you wanted to bring anyone extra, please let me know. Staff has been told that if the seats are gone, that I will buy them lunch at the restaurant. So if someone else from the Planning Commission would like to attend, just let us know. We'll make that happen. Just a couple of other quick things. Kelly brought up LSAs. We submitted 8 LSAs. We received funding for nearly $400,000 of what was awarded. So that was pretty good. I apologize. I was late this morning because I am having technical difficulties. So everything I'm doing this morning has been on my phone, which is not great, but I'm muddling through. So I can't tell you who those 4 applicants were, but we'll have that available here shortly. I did want to mention that our tourism grants first quarter, we received $1.5 million in requests for those grants, which is very exciting, and the tourism committee has reviewed those, and they are moving through our process. It is also the Cumberland Valley Meal Madness time, so get out and visit your restaurants. We start out with 64 restaurants, and based on votes on the internet, we get down to 1. I think it's on Instagram specifically. And I did just want to mention, since we talked about it last month, there was a press release with facts on the micro site for Frog Switch on the details of the demolition. And that process continues to move forward. And I'll just stop there if anyone has any questions. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Any other coordinating agencies? Hearing none. Like we're moving on to adjournment.
I have one issue. It's just the very well written public comment that we received. I know I've asked about this before. We do have a process to respond to those folks. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, I responded to Ms. Fenn, let her know that
And I would just highlight the first line of the comments, as you probably read, was asking for the planning commission to consider evening meetings so that more citizens could attend. And I'm raising this because we've talked about this for about the last 8 years. Those of you who have been at some of the retreats with us. And it's come up, we've had some great ideas about having periodic evening meetings. We've had great ideas about going out into the community and holding this meeting in different townships in different areas of the county. I think both those things would demonstrate that we're serious about community involvement. And I do believe we're serious about community involvement. But I just would echo her read her first statement again, right? And I do think that that's something looking forward that we should consider. We could try it. Maybe nobody will come because people don't come to meetings unless there's something that kind of a spur under their saddle, so to speak. But nevertheless, I think it's worth a try. None of us like evening meetings, but if we did it once a quarter, twice a year, I don't know. But I think it would address a legitimate concern that people are expressing, that it's not very convenient to come to a 7:30 a.m. meeting if you're a working person. So
I agree.
What if we did it on a case-by-case basis?
Say
What if we did it on a case-by-case basis? If we actually had something on the agenda that had significant public, like today's agenda, like
Right. No, I mean,
an
yeah.
ASA, like there's no reason to do today's agenda. And
No, I agree completely.
What if there's something relating to like approving a data center rezoning or something like that? That could be a good idea. Like the one, we had a couple meetings like not too many months ago that we did have significant residents that we may have even more if it was an evening meeting.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, what it would reflect is a willingness to walk into some potentially conflictual situations. You know, do we go to Southampton Township and talk with them? Is that where we're going to hold the meeting? And it may create an issue of what's the boundary there, right? It's a township issue, not the county issue. So there is a fine line. We don't want to supersede the township's authority by if we went out into the community. But even just holding an evening meeting here, twice a year, 3 times a year, I don't know. As you say, perhaps when the agenda makes sense,
Yeah.
I think would be responding to a request that we have heard repeatedly over the last 8 years.
Yeah, because I feel like you normally have a pretty good idea when we would be expecting a contentious item on the agenda that may have a lot of public input of people that would come to the meetings.
So we can see a lot of these. I mean, this issue came up, if you recall, a year or so ago. We had the rezoning request in Hampton Township on Good Hope Road, the same issue. So it's board's discretion on your meeting time. You know, we can support you whatever time you would like to meet. You know, we're going to need advance notice so we can work on the advertising. You know, so we have our meetings advertised. We can switch that. We can absolutely do evening meetings based upon the discretion of the board.
Maybe the simplest approach would be a trial balloon of a few evening meetings at a topical time. Do it here, you know, because the logistics of moving around could be more problematic. I get that.
Thank you. Any other comments? All righty, looking for a motion.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
There you go. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great.
Thanks for doing this. Very useful. I was going to ask you 5 seconds.
Thank you for this one in the meeting.
I'd
love to go there, but out of town, so next Thursday.
Where's your commitment, George?
I had a.
No, I think it was.
Well, you're gonna laugh. NASCAR, right?
I had a.